Hello, my spooky friends, and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. I am, as always, so happy to see you today. I hope that you are doing well, as today I have another true crime ASMR video for you to enjoy. Today we will be diving in to the Kendrick Johnson case. Kendrick Johnson was a 17-year-old Georgia student who was found dead, wrapped up in a wrestling mat, January 11th, 2013, in the Lowndes High School gym in Valdosta, Georgia. State and local law enforcement officials ruled the death an accidental asphyxiation, saying Johnson died after he climbed into a rolled-up mat to retrieve his sneakers. The Lowndes County Sheriff's Office reopened the case in March. Sheriff Ashley Polk detailed his findings in a 16-page document, concluding that evidence and other information do not produce anything to prove any criminal activity by anyone that would have resulted in the death of Kendrick Johnson. So, that is today's case. If you have any recommendations for future videos, please let me know in the comments below. As always, I will be adding this case to my true crime ASMR video playlist, and this is where you can find past and future videos in this series. Now let's get into it. On January 11th, 2013, the body of Kendrick Johnson was discovered in the gymnasium of Lowndes High School in Valdosta, Georgia. He was found head first in the center of a vertical rolled-up wrestling mat. The body was discovered by fellow students who had climbed up to the top of a cluster of mats. These stood nearly 6 feet tall and 3 foot wide. An autopsy by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation stated that Johnson had died from positional asphyxia, and the case was ruled an accidental death by the Lowndes County investigators. Authorities hypothesized that Johnson had fallen into the mat while looking for a shoe and died after being unable to get out. 3 students at Lowndes High School told investigators that it was common for some students to store their shoes behind or under the rolled-up mats. Johnson was not wearing shoes when he was found. A student at the school said that he shared a pair of Adidas shoes with Johnson, and that after gym class, Johnson would always go to the mats, jump up, and toss the shoes inside the middle of the hole. Lieutenant Stride Jones, who headed up the investigation for the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office, stated, "We never had credible information that indicated this was anything other than an accident." Johnson's family questioned this hypothesis, as they should. Unsatisfied with the result of the investigation, they hired an independent autopsy conducted by William R. Anderson with Forensic Dimensions in Heathrow, Florida, on June 15th, 2013. Anderson claimed that his findings indicated traces of blunt force trauma to the right neck and soft tissues, and suggested the death was not accidental. In addition to revisiting some of the more troubling aspects of the investigation into Kendrick's suspicious death, including the teen's missing organs and unidentified blood spatter found near his body. This was used in a documentary where they were really studying the all of these pieces of evidence that really contradicted what the sheriff's office had said occurred. The documentary presents a damning piece of evidence that was never before made public, which was surveillance videos showing the primary person of interest standing next to Kendrick before he vanished. This contradicting claims that he did not see Kendrick that day he vanished on campus. In November 2013, 290 hours of surveillance tape from 35 cameras that covered the gym area were released to CNN following a court request. A forensic analyst enlisted by CNN found that tapes from 2 cameras are missing an hour and 5 minutes of footage, while another set was missing 2 hours and 10 minutes of footage. Some of the apparent lapses in coverage were found to result from camera systems that were not synchronized with one another. Timestamps between some separate camera systems differed by as much as 20 minutes for the same time period, giving the impression of a gap for portions of the footage where no gap existed. Other missing footage was the result of the camera's motion-activated function not being triggered. Camera systems were motion-activated using a change in light pixels to turn recordings on and off. The area where Johnson's body was discovered, where the gym mats were stored, was not covered by surveillance cameras. Attorneys for the Johnson family expressed fears that the camera footage was edited as part of a cover-up. However, analysis of the camera systems by the Valdosta Daily Times attempted to explain anomalies, casting doubt on the theory of a cover-up. The president of the Valdosta Lowndes County chapter of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and the former lead investigator for that chapter have stated they believe the attorneys for the Johnsons have not been entirely truthful in their statements, and that there was no cover-up in this case. Kendrick vanished at Lowndes High School around 1:20 p.m. p.m. on January 10th, 2013. Though surveillance cameras were located all over campus, the last footage of Kendrick shows him walking into the gym behind other students before going out of frame. Kendrick missed his 4th period class and did not come home from school, this prompting his family to file a missing persons report that night. As Kendrick lay dead in the gym, the basketball and color guard teams held their night practices. Local newspaper Valdosta Today reported that those children claimed, when questioned by police, that they never saw or heard Kendrick in the gym. Kendrick was found dead in the gymnasium at 10:30 a.m. on January 11th, roughly 10 hours after his family reported him missing. He was located in the left corner of the gym in a rolled-up mat that was lying against a wall. A pair of Nike shoes was found in the mat with Kendrick, and one black and white Adidas shoe was found near Kendrick in a pool of blood. The second shoe was discovered on the floor in front of one of the mats in the gym, according to the local news outlet. Kendrick's mother, Jacqueline Johnson, told filmmakers that she was on campus when her son was found, and police would not let her or Kendrick's aunt see his body. While Jacqueline may have been kept from her son to secure the scene and possibly evidence, Pollock told Crime Online that Lone D's High School was not placed on lockdown the morning the teen's body was found on campus. Lone D's County Police said they believed Kendrick crawled into the mat to retrieve his shoes, became stuck, and continued to burrow into the mat until he became completely trapped and died. The county medical examiner concluded Johnson died of positional asphyxia and deemed his death accidental. The swift determination drew skepticism from many, including Johnson's family, Cradle, and Pollock. For 11 of my 23 years, I worked cold cases. I've never seen a doctor rule on a theory without being able to present facts to me, Cradle told Crime Online, claiming the medical examiner kicked him out of her office when he questioned her about her findings. Pollock told Crime Online that the lungs of someone who asphyxiates are heavier because the lungs fill with fluid, causing death. However, Pollock said Kendrick's lungs post-mortem were a normal weight for a boy his age and size. Despite his death being ruled accidental, Lone D's County Police initially said they did not immediately test some blood spatter located 40 feet from Kendrick's body. They said they later tested the blood and it was not a match for Kendrick, but it remains unclear who it belongs to. Police said a bloody tissue was found in the girls' bathroom near the gym, which was also tested and did not match the blood discovered near Kendrick's body. While presenting the case to the public in October 2014, Lieutenant Stride Jones explained why they could not test every student. It's not Kendrick's blood. Now we do not know whose blood it is. Well, a lot of people ask, why didn't you test everyone at the school? Well, number one, we don't have a legal basis. Number two, you're talking about testing 3,000 people. Finding Kendrick Johnson was a documentary presents police documents that state that Kendrick is 5 foot 10 inches tall and his shoulders measured 19 inches. In comparison, the mat he was found in is 6 feet long and the opening was 14 inches. Students who did not want to pay for a locker reportedly used the mats to stow their personal items. One of Kendrick's close friends and classmates, Malik Austin, explained in the documentary that the students did not lean into the mat to retrieve their shoes. They tilted the mat to release the shoes. Images from the scene show Johnson lying in a pool of blood. Notably, the shoe located on top of the blood is spotless, suggesting, in the view of the family and film producers, that the item was planted. Kendrick's parents had his body exhumed in June 2013 and June 2018 for further examination. Both independent autopsy reports determined the 17-year-old died of non-accidental blunt force trauma. This was inconsistent with the positional asphyxia determination made by the GBI. Dr. William Anderson wrote in his June 2013 report that Kendrick suffered blunt force trauma to the right of his neck involving the right mandible and soft tissues, including the area of the carotid body consistent with inflicted injury. The second independent autopsy that Dr. Anderson also performed yielded the same findings. Kendrick's first exhumation was met with controversy when it was revealed that every organ from his pelvis to his skull, including his brain, heart, lungs, and liver, was gone and replaced with newspaper. According to CNN, funeral director Antonio Harrington claimed the 17-year-old's organs were destroyed through the natural process due to the position of his body when he died. He also stated the funeral home never had Johnson's organs, saying they were discarded by the prosecutor before the body was sent back to Valdosta for burial. Adding to the confusion is the fact that in October 2013, the GBI told CBS that Kendrick's organs were returned to his body following the autopsy, as per protocol. The organs were in the body we sent back to the funeral home, an agency spokesperson said. Kendrick's organs were never located. In the documentary, Kendrick's parents claimed Lowndes County Police barred them from seeing his body for 3 days. Kendrick's father, Kenneth Johnson, worked as a truck driver and was on the road when the teen vanished and was found dead. But when he did return, he and his wife held a press conference begging authorities to not take their son's body out of Lowndes County before they saw it. Kenneth said within an hour and a half of that conference, authorities called him and said he could see Kendrick's body at the local crime lab. Kendrick's father was shocked by his son's disfigured body. Kendrick's arm was nestled over his head, suggesting officials did not bother to lay his arms straight. Kenneth also said lacerations and bruising to his son's face made him think Kendrick was in some sort of fight. The family was given photos of the scene and Kendrick's body. Horrified by what those photos depicted, they decided to post them on social media. Crime Online has chosen not to publish the most graphic of those images. I did debate on putting them in this video, but I personally do not think it is right to post videos of people in that state. I think it's extremely disrespectful, so we will not be doing that. So, Kendrick's photos drew wide comparisons to Emmett Till. This was a 14-year-old black boy from Chicago who was murdered in 1955 in Money, Mississippi, after a 21-year-old white woman named Carolyn Bryant accused him of making ugly remarks whistling at her. Bryant's husband and brother-in-law were charged with ripping Till from his home, fatally beating and shooting him. Till was found in the river with a cotton gin fan tied to his neck with barbed wire. Now it comes to the question of who would want Kendrick Johnson dead. The 17-year-old was well-liked, honor roll student, an athlete, and his parents said he always helped out at home. Now the documentary Finding Kendrick Johnson makes the claim that the 17-year-old's killer has been in plain sight all those years, with an alibi that had already been refuted by federal investigators. Over the years, the Johnsons have publicly implicated brothers Brian and Brandon Bell in Kendrick's death. The three teens were classmates. The brothers' father, Rick Bell, was an FBI special agent who ultimately resigned after his home was raided and searched for evidence. Cradle, who was on the case for 8 months, alleged that almost every person they interviewed mentioned Rick approaching them at some point about Kendrick's case. While Brian told the media that he considered Kendrick a friend, Austin, another one of Johnson's friends, alleged that a year before his death, Brian and Kendrick had an altercation on the bus as they headed to a football game that was being played out of town. Austin said Brian pulled Kendrick's locks and held his head down, prompting the fight. Austin said Kendrick got the best of Brian. Kendrick reportedly confided in his father about Brendan telling classmates that the issue was not over. According to the father, Kendrick said, "You know Rick Bell, Brian's daddy. He came up to me at school and told me the fight on the bus wasn't a fair fight, and I should come to his house and refight Brian." Kendrick reportedly walked away from Rick, who has has denied this encounter ever transpired. While the FBI concluded in 2016 that the bells were in different areas of the school when Kendrick entered the gym, Pollock claimed the agency's own 2014 analysis report cites surveillance stills that show Brian in the hallway with Kendrick before he died. Brian had told local media in numerous interviews that he had not seen Kendrick on the day he vanished. They saw that report in 2014. They saw the photograph of the boys standing next to each other, and they let the bells go on television and say they hadn't seen Kendrick. The fact that Brian didn't see KJ was a huge thing that they used for years against the Johnson family, but we have the footage you saw him. In addition to the photos in the FBI report, the document also included a ledger that specifically said Kendrick and Brian were standing next to each other in the hallway the morning Kendrick died. Pollock believed the evidence was so crucial that he flew to Georgia to show Kendrick's parents. During the film, Jacqueline becomes so overwhelmed seeing the footage that she has to excuse herself as Kenneth wipes tears from his eyes. Cradle is also shown the report and says he also has never been seen this footage, despite being the federal investigator reviewing the Kendrick's case. It is sus that they're holding this from them and kind of like gaslighting them about Brian's whereabouts. I don't think that this immediately means he's in the wrong. We would need more. But why are you hiding this from the family? Other than to ease them, but still. As Pollock explained to Crime Online, the bombshell evidence did not come from an anonymous source or undercover sleuthing. It was plainly stated in the FBI's 2014 analysis report. Despite this, the Department of Justice closed the investigation in June 2016, citing insufficient evidence. In March, the Lowndes County Sheriff's Office announced they were reopening Kendrick's case to ensure the initial investigation was conducted properly. Police said the latest probe would include re-interviews of witnesses and consultations with other law enforcement agencies to ensure nothing was missed. Both Cradle and Pollock said they are not hopeful it will provide any solace to the Kendricks family. Cradle also said that a new, thorough investigation would require Lowndes County Police to contact everyone involved in the initial probe, and he has not heard from anyone. Meanwhile, Pollock, who called for a federal probe, said he does not believe justice will be found in this case. Johnson's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Lowndes County Board of Education, its superintendent, and the principal of Lowndes High School. The suit alleged that Johnson was violently assaulted, severely injured, suffered great physical pain and mental anguish, and subjected to insult and loss of life on January 10th, 2013. While the lawsuit did not name the person or persons allegedly involved in the January 10th event, nor identify the race of alleged perpetrators, it implied a race-based dimension to the hypothetical assault. The lawsuit alleged that defendants were negligent and violated Johnson's constitutional right to equal protection based on race. It alleged that the defendants ignored reports that previously Johnson had been repeatedly attacked and harassed by a white student. It alleged that Johnson was attacked on a bus trip 14 months prior to his death. The lawsuit further alleged that another student, Brian Bell, had history of provoking and attacking Johnson at school, stating that the provocations took place in the presence of the coaching staff and employees after his mother complained about previous attacks. The suit also alleged that school officials failed to properly monitor the activities of students throughout all areas of the campus and to maintain a properly functioning video surveillance system. In August 2014, a $5 million lawsuit against Ebony magazine was filed after the magazine published a series of articles naming 2 students as possible suspects in Johnson's death. The magazine used pseudonyms but was otherwise accurate in descriptions of the boys, including the fact that their father was an FBI agent. The article used as a source an anonymous email to the sheriff's office. In their lawsuit, the parents of the accused boys assert that their sons were not involved in the death, are not considered suspects, and have been harassed as a result of the publication. In January 2015, the Johnsons' family filed a $100 million civil lawsuit in the Superior Court of DeKalb County against 38 individuals. Respondents include 3 of Johnson's classmates. 2 or 3 respondents are unnamed, and local, state, and federal officials. The school superintendent of Lowndes County, the Valdosta Lowndes Crime Lab, the police chief of Valdosta, many sheriff's deputies, the city of Valdosta, the state medical examiner, the GBI, and 5 of its agents, and 1 FBI agent. The lawsuit alleged that the FBI agent ordered his 2 sons and a classmate to attack Johnson, and that his death was a murder, and that the respondents engaged in a conspiracy to cover up the homicide. Jim Elliott, the Lowndes County attorney, stated that the allegations were unfounded and baseless, and that any response would be made in court. All local Superior Court judges recused themselves from presiding over the case, preventing the lawsuit from being filed and heard in Lowndes County, citing their close proximity to the accused. Shortly before the lawsuit was filed, U.S. Attorney Michael J. Moore said in a statement that a federal investigation was still open and that the investigation has proven more complicated and taken longer than originally anticipated. After Moore resigned in 2015, the case was transferred to the Northern District of Ohio under U.S. Attorney Stephen Dettelbach. Shortly after receiving the case, Dettelbach also resigned. Despite these resignations, the Department of Justice investigation continued. In November 2015, the Department of Justice filed a motion in the civil case to intervene and stay the case. The U.S. Attorney said allowing evidence discovery in the civil suit to continue would have a chilling effect on the federal investigation, which had expanded into investigating possible obstruction and grand jury witness tampering. After the Justice Department's motion was denied, Johnson's parents dismissed their own wrongful death lawsuit, saying that they'd hope to refile it after the conclusion of the federal investigation. They were subsequently sued for more than $850,000 in attorney fees and $1 million in defamation damages. Okay. So that is today's case. A lot here, a lot going on here, a lot of suspicious acts going on here. So let's get into it. I always end my videos with my thoughts, and I think, first of all, I would like to state that I do not believe this kid jumped into this mat and went down into the mat to get his shoes. I do think it is possible that these two boys, the Bells, I think something happened here. It's obvious that the Bells have this very, this father figure with extreme toxic masculinity. I don't think parenting excuses behavior either. I think it is possible that due to the Brian Bell losing this fight with Kendrick, that he met up with him later. I do think it is possible that these kids got into a little scuffle, and at the end of it, they picked up Kendrick and put him in this mat. I do think that it is possible that they did that and put him in the mat as a joke. I think that is possible. He could have already been dead and they put him in there. But I don't... I think something occurred there, but I do think that the person who is ultimately responsible is the parent of the Bells. It's very obvious that he was putting them up to fight, which I think when these kids are put into those situations, they act out of the parents almost putting their pride on the line, and it's disgusting. And I think that whatever did happen between these kids, the Bells should be held accountable. Something definitely happened, but they should have been held accountable in a correct manner. I don't think they should be put away for life. I do think that counseling and being held till they are 25 and being counseled mentally and everything, because kids at this age are so, their minds are so pliable. They are so easily influenced, and I think this is one of those instances where this FBI agent dad, who has a sore ego and is probably racist, planted these seeds in these kids' minds, and it ultimately cost a child their life. Now, I just think it's undisputable that something occurred. And it's very obvious that a cover-up it happened. We could have tested the Bells for their blood. I think it would be likely that we would find that blood spatter is one of the children's. I think the shoes being put where they were, this is someone working quickly to cover up something. I really hope for these children's sakes that this was a tussle that went wrong. I'm not saying tussles are right, but they do happen with young boys. Tensions rise. There's a lot of hormones going on, and I'm hoping that is what happened. I'm really hoping that they didn't go out of their way to murder this kid. But either way, this is not something that should have happened, and most definitely could have been avoided. I think a lot of the times in schools we see this where the right precautions are not taken, and then something like this happens, and then they apply the right ones. There should have been someone in these areas where the surveillance cameras weren't. I know that it's difficult and a lot to ask with staffing issues, money issues, things like that. But when it comes to the safety of these kids, I think money should not be a factor. In places where you don't have footage, there should be someone monitoring it, at least. And I hope that Kendrick was not alive and in that mat for long. In my head, I could see where these boys put him in that mat as a joke, knowing that he couldn't get out and would have to sit there, and not understanding what could happen after. Kids don't think that way. I always think the better of the situation, because no matter what the situation is, it sucks. And I just hope better with kids. I always think there is a possibility to be better and do better. And ultimately, it has a lot to do with the parents. Adults are different. I'm very firm with that. But children, teenagers, we need to watch what we are saying to our children. Children don't think things without the seeds being planted by someone else. And we need to start planting kind seeds in our youth, because kindness leads to kind people, hatred leads to hateful people. And I really just hope that Kendrick's family is able to find closure in this case and justice be served. These kids need to be held accountable, because if they aren't, then this is going to lead to a bigger problem, a more severe problem, and not only mentally, but they could do this again and expect no consequences. And as much as we hate consequences, they are needed to promote better future actions. So, that is today's video. I hope you found it relaxing and informative. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And as always, I will be adding this video to my True Crime ASMR series playlist, where you can find past and future videos in this series. Thank you so much for watching, and spooky.